Thank you so much, Nathan, and thank you everyone involved in SFL for putting on yet again a marvelous event. You guys are amazing. I'm in awe of your ability to organize and execute really effective conferences and events in general. My hat is off to all of you. And hello, lovers of liberty. This is a great thing we're doing here, getting together to think about how to defend and advance this beautiful thing, liberty. And what I want to talk about today is something that is not as frequently talked about as the economic case and the economic case and the historic case for liberty. We hear a lot about that, mostly about the economic case for liberty. Today, I want to talk about how to make the moral case for liberty. And if we want to win this battle for liberty, if we want to win a free future for ourselves, our loved ones, and humanity in general, so that we can all live fully as human beings, we need to use every tool in the toolbox. We need every tool that we can use, especially the fundamental tools. In a sense, a pencil or a microphone or a stage is part of the tools. Those are among the tools that we need to use. But I want to talk about the fundamental tools. Right? One of the fundamental tools, or significantly fundamental, is the economic case for liberty. And you guys are familiar with that. The economic case has been made since Adam Smith all the way up through Thomas Sowell, and with all of the great economists in between. And in essence, it's that to the extent that society is free, to the extent that its people are free to think, produce, and trade as they see fit, societies are better off. They're more prosperous. They have more abundance. This is something that's recognized by real economists generally. It's something that's measured every year by some of the better think tanks, the Fraser Institute in Canada, the Heritage Foundation, and the Wall Street Journal get together every year and produce the Index of Economic Freedom. And what that shows every year is that, yes, indeed, the countries with more economic freedom are more prosperous. So there's no mystery here. And everyone really paying attention knows that this is the case. Why then are we still, in many respects, losing the battle for liberty? And I think the reason is that not enough of us know that we also have the moral case for liberty. And we do. The problem is almost no one knows that we do. And the leftists and socialists certainly know that we don't know that we do. And they don't think that we could, right? And this is wonderful for them because they get to come to us and you lay out all your Misesian economics or whatever angle you want to take it from and point out how it is that a free society is going to be better off for everybody in that society. And they just brush it all aside and say, in effect, yeah, but to be moral, we have to selflessly serve others. We have to redistribute money to the poor who need that money. And so your economic arguments are for naught. They just don't penetrate. And the reason they don't penetrate is because in people's minds, the moral arguments trump the economic arguments. People want to be good. They want to be good people. You guys want to be good people. So what I want to talk about is a moral case for liberty that actually integrates flawlessly, by the way, with the economic case for liberty. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So what is the moral case for liberty? Well, we'll start with the two questions. Is liberty good? Should people be free? Observe that both good and should are moral terms. If it's true that liberty is good and that people should be free, then there must be some moral principle by reference to which that is the case. Some moral principle by reference to which that is true. Things aren't just good or bad floating out there. They're good or bad by reference to some moral principle. So what is the moral principle at play here? The moral principle is the principle of rights. The principle of rights. And this is nothing new, right? People have been talking about rights for a long time. And the basic idea here is, as the American founders laid it out in the Declaration and then tried to defend and protect with the Constitution, we have a right, we have a moral prerogative to take the actions necessary to live our lives. That's the right to life. To act on our own judgment, free of coercion. That's the right to liberty. To keep, use, and dispose of the product of our effort. The right to property. And importantly, the right to the pursuit of happiness, which is the right to choose and pursue the values and goals of your own desires, your own choosing. All right? And the appendix to all of this, of course, is you have a right to do those things so long as you don't violate other people's rights. All right? That's the theory. That's the theory. And you guys have all heard of this. But the question is, if we're going to really defend liberty, is that theory true? Can we prove that that is true? Can we prove that we have rights? Or are they merely assertions? So the historic approach to this has been threefold. If that's what rights are, and we ask the question, okay, where do they come from? Or what supports these things? We get essentially three answers. Rights come from God, rights come from government, or rights come from nature. God, government, and nature, that's what we hear. But there are problems with all three of these, and I'm going to move very quickly through these. So if your rights come from God, then to prove that you have rights, what's the first thing you have to prove? That God exists. Now, whatever your position is on God or religion, you got to recognize this is a tall order. A, nobody's ever done it. There's no proof of God's existence. And B, you don't want to rest your case for liberty on something you can't prove. This is just not a good way to go. So it doesn't matter what your position on God is, that is not going to be a way to support liberty. The second one, that rights come from government, is really a bastardization of language. Because what it says, in effect, is that rights are whatever the government tells you you may or may not do. But that conflates rights with laws. But rights and laws are not the same thing, which is why we have two different concepts for them, right? A law is precisely whatever a government says you may or may not do. Those are the laws of that land. The whole purpose of the concept of rights is that it's more fundamental than law. It's supposed to be the thing that we identify that says, well, you have a moral prerogative to act this way regardless of what governments or groups say about it. That's the purpose of the concept of rights. So if they exist, they're not the same thing as laws, they're something else. Indeed, the purpose of rights is to inform governments and legal systems of what they morally may and may not constitute as a law. So that's what's going on there. So the left, the socialists, love to just say, yeah, your rights are whatever the government says you may do. So if you're in North Korea today, your rights are to be slaves. Right? So and this is just a futile way to try to defend liberty. It just turns everything over to the government, in effect. So that's no solution. Then we get to rights come from nature. Now this sounds absolutely wonderful right off the bat, right? It's like, great, if we can anchor these things in nature, we're good to go. And that's true. But when we turn to nature and start looking for rights, things get complicated. Where are they? If I go out looking for rights out in the park or the woods or the city, am I going to find rights out there? No, they're not out there anywhere. If you cut me open, you're not going to find them in here either. You'll find some organs and other gory stuff in there, but you're not going to find rights. So in the history of the natural rights theory tradition, how do they solve this problem? Well, they say, as John Locke did, that your rights depend on and derive from a natural moral law. A natural moral law. Does anyone know where Locke and others say that natural moral law comes from? God. So now we're back at rights come from God. Guess who loves this problem? Socialists, fascists, theocrats. They all love this problem. If you can't prove that you have rights, the socialists can come in and say, you don't have rights. You have whatever the government says you can do. Here we are with the guns. Hand over your stuff. Same with the fascists. Same with the theocrats. They say, you can't prove that you have rights, but that's okay. We have a direct connection to God, and he tells us what you may and may not do. Put on your burqa. Stop having gay sex. Join my religion or die. This is serious business if we can't prove that we have rights. Where is the evidence for rights? Jeremy Bentham, the utilitarian, famously said, rights are nonsense upon stilts. Alasdair MacIntyre, the British philosopher, says that rights are won with witches and unicorns. Why? Because there's an equal amount of evidence in support of them. If we don't have the moral case for liberty, if we concede the moral case for liberty to socialists and theocrats and the like, we lose this battle flat. We may as well throw in the towel now. So the good news is that we do have the moral case for liberty. I'm going to give you a very brief indication of it today, just scratching the surface of it, and encourage you hopefully to look further into this. And what I'm going to be talking about is Ayn Rand's theory of rights. I'm a big fan of Ayn Rand's philosophy, and she has a theory of rights that I think is perfect. And what you're going to see is that it is supported by evidence. And you're going to see that in the next few minutes. Solid evidence. When Rand approaches the issue of rights, she takes a very Aristotelian approach. She says, in effect, okay, if rights are these moral prerogatives to take these actions, right to liberty, pursuit of happiness, etc., what kind of animal is it that we're talking about that allegedly has these rights? She takes an Aristotelian approach and says, in effect, oh, we're talking about human beings. Well, what is a human being? Human beings are rational animals. Now, this doesn't mean we all use reason all the time. That's clearly not the case. But what it does mean is that we possess the faculty of reason, and we can use it, and this is what distinguishes us from other animals. And this is quite clearly the case. It's the use of reason that enables us to build a hut and fashion a fishing line if you're alone on an island and you need to survive, and you're able to do that. Why? Because you can think and put things together and understand causal relationships in reality. Reason is our means of doing that. In a free society, you have the capacity to think productively, build things, trade them with other people, right? Reason is the faculty that enables you to do that. Acting on your rational judgment is precisely how you live. It's how we all live. That's what distinguishes us. And reason not only helps us to gain material values. How do you know what friendship is, or love, or purpose? Your long-range goals in life, the things you need to think about and pursue in a long-range fashion. How do you know any of that? Through the use of reason. Acting on reason is how we live as human beings. So, with this in mind, Rand, in effect, continues to observe and says, oh, okay, if human beings live by using their rational judgment and acting on it, what is the one thing that can stop human beings from acting on their rational judgment? What is the one thing that human beings can do to other human beings to stop them? And here the answer is the initiation of physical force. If I'm on my island using my mind to build a hut and fashion fishing lines and the like, and you're much bigger than me and you row up to the island and strap me to a tree, can I act on my judgment now? Well, clearly not. I'm strapped to a tree. I can't do anything. My judgment has become useless. Right here, we can see at the perceptual level that physical force stops human beings from acting on their judgment, which is their basic means of living. Their basic means of living. That's what it does. And it does so regardless of the degree or the kind of force. Force back in society, if somebody jumps out from behind a dumpster and puts a gun to your head and says, give me your purse, and then he runs off with your purse, can you now act on your judgment? If you were going to spend the money in that purse today at the market, can you do that? No. The money is gone. You could get other money and go spend that, but you can't do the thing that you intended to do. You can't act on the judgment of your mind for that day. Degrees of force, different kinds of force, threats of, if you don't pay your taxes, then we will come and get you and put you in jail. That is a threat of force. It stops you from being able to act on your judgment and use your money the way you choose to use it. If the government threatens you with hate speech laws, if you use these words, then we will come do this bad thing to you. That is a threat of force, and it stops you from being able to act on your judgment, your basic means of living. With these kinds of observations, and many more to boot, Rand draws the principle that human beings must be left free to act on their judgment so that they can live as human beings. This is the secular, objective, moral, absolutely observable case for rights. This is why we have them. Think of it this way. A human life is a life guided by the judgment of one's own mind. This is why slavery is wrong, if you think about it. What's the moral reason that slavery is wrong? If I take someone and say, you're going to do work for me, and I'm going to make you do it, what's going wrong there? I'm treating him like he's not a human being. I'm treating him like he does not have his own mind and his own capacity to make judgments and his own need to live on the judgment of his mind. And degrees are just degrees of that bad thing. What's wrong with serfdom? The same thing that's wrong with slavery, except that it's a lesser degree of the bad thing. Because of this, we can see that the principle of individual rights, the idea that you have a moral prerogative to act on your judgment, is based precisely in your nature as a human being. You must be free in order to live fully as a human being. So people get confused about rights, I think, because there are two elements to this that I want to break out that I think will be helpful here. Some people feel like, well, rights to be real have to be out there. They've got to come from out there somewhere. So God's going to imprint them on us, or the government's going to tell us that we have them, or something out there. And then the other side says, in effect, no, rights aren't out there. We can't find them out there. They're just in here. We just made these things up. They're just subjective. Rand gets around this conundrum by pointing out that what's really going on is there's an in here part and there's an out there part. This is called objectivity. Rights are recognitions. That's the in here part. You're using your mind and recognizing something. What are we recognizing? We're recognizing the fact that for a human being to live fully as a human being, he or she must be fully free to act on his or her judgment. That's it. That's it. This is a beautiful theory. It integrates flawlessly with the economic case for liberty. Economics deals basically in aggregates, right? If this society is free, then we'll see more prosperity. Morality doesn't deal in aggregates. It deals in individuals. Proper morality deals in individuals. What kind of animal is this? What are the factual requirements of his existence and survival and ability to flourish? This is the thing that we need to integrate with the economic case. If and when we do, if and when we have the full suite of tools in support of liberty, we have the economic case, we have the historic case, we have the moral case. When we have all of that, guess what happens? We win. Little problem here. The moral case for liberty is controversial. Because if you do have a moral right to act on your own judgment and to keep your own goods and the things that you produce and to trade with others only voluntarily, and the government may not initiate force against you and so forth, guess what that means? It means, as the famous French philosopher Auguste Comte, 19th century philosopher who came up with and coined, indeed, the term altruism. Altruism means otherism. Alter is other, means other in Latin, and altruism means otherism. You should live for others. Being moral consists in living for others. Auguste Comte said explicitly that the very idea of rights is immoral, that it must be completely put away, that we must do away with the concept of rights. Why? Because if you have a right to act on your judgment and live your life according to your own judgment, then you don't have a duty to live for others. The utilitarians took the same approach. They don't like rights either. That's why Bentham called them nonsense upon stilts, or at least part of the reason he called them that. Why? Because their principle is the greatest good for the greatest number, which is not too far from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. It's holding the collective, the community, as the standard of moral value. But there are no facts of reality to support any of that. That's just all made up. Talk about subjective, that's just made up. We can see that the individual needs to act on his judgment in order to live. We can see what happens when force is used against him. So here's the thing. I'll leave you with this, and I have barely scratched the surface of Ayn Rand's theory. It's a very rich theory, and I'm giving you enough today, hopefully just to inspire you to look further into this, because I think if you do, you're going to find it absolutely mind-blowingly powerful. Here's the thing. If we do integrate this, and if we muster the courage to challenge the status quo in morality, and we will have to do that, there's no getting around this, because as soon as you start talking about rights to act on your own judgment and do your own thing, obviously the question of, well, can't you just be fully self-interested then comes in. And the answer to that is yes, you can. So you have to be able to defend that, and this is why Ayn Rand, in addition to this theory of rights, wrote a book titled The Virtue of Selfishness, right? And Capitalism, the Unknown Ideal, and the other works that she wrote explaining why people's conception of what self-interest is all wrong. Self-interest doesn't mean stabbing people in the back to get what you want. It means thinking and producing and identifying other good people who think and produce and trading with them so that we can all live in beautiful prosperity and social harmony. That's the goal, and that's what we need to do. And as a liberty movement, if we want to win, we need to understand and use this fundamental tool. If we don't have this tool, we lose, because the moral trumps the economic. So either we start to understand this theory, embrace this theory, and use this theory, and then have the whole suite of tools necessary to win this thing beautifully, without any, there's nothing negative involved in this. The whole thing is a beautiful integration of truths. And we just have to do this, but you have to muster the courage to talk about moral issues, which traditionally libertarians have been afraid to do. Traditionally, libertarians have had this idea, let's just have a big tent, and we'll all just kind of agree on this one political ideal, the non-initiation of force principle or something like that. And then we're not going to talk about moral and more fundamental issues. We can't win if we do that. We cannot win. If we want to win the battle for liberty, we absolutely must understand and engage in deeper moral and philosophic issues. So I urge you to do that. Let's win this thing. We can, and we have the technology. Thank you so much.